There are moments in history that feel like locked doors, secrets so carefully concealed, so deliberately buried, that they vanish from memory for centuries. But what if I told you those doors are about to swing wide open? Picture this: entire chapters of our past, erased from textbooks, scrubbed from records, or whispered only in shadows until now. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 30 of the most shocking historical secrets ever hidden. Stories so unbelievable, they'll make you question everything you thought you knew. From ancient cover-ups to modern conspiracies, these aren't just forgotten footnotes, they're explosive truths that rewrite history itself. Think about the last time you heard a historical fact that turned out to be completely wrong. Maybe it was a myth you believed as a child, or a story you'd never questioned until someone showed you the evidence. That's the power of secrets. They shape our understanding of the world, often without us even realizing it. Now imagine that feeling times 30, because behind every one of these revelations lies a deliberate act of concealment. A king who ordered documents burned, a government that classified files for decades, or a culture that passed down truths only in code. These aren't accidents of time, they're intentional erasures, and today we're piecing them back together. So why do these secrets matter? Because history isn't just about dates and dead people, it's about us. It's about the lies we've inherited, the power struggles we've been kept from seeing, and the astonishing resilience of truth. Over the next few minutes, you'll witness everything from lost civilizations that predate recorded time to chilling political maneuvers hidden in plain sight. You'll meet figures whose real stories were twisted beyond recognition and uncover events so controversial they were almost wiped from existence. This isn't just a list, it's a reckoning. And trust me, by the end, you'll never look at the past the same way again. The lost city of Atlantis, just saying those words sparks images of towering spires beneath crystal waters, a civilization so advanced it vanished overnight. But here's the twist: this isn't just some bedtime story. The first recorded mention of Atlantis comes from none other than the ancient philosopher Plato, who described it in vivid detail around 360 BC. He called it a mighty empire beyond the Pillars of Hercules, a utopia of unmatched power and technology that angered the gods and was swallowed by the sea in a single day of earthquakes and floods. But was Plato writing history or crafting a cautionary tale? That's where the real mystery begins. For centuries, scholars have debated whether Atlantis was real or purely allegorical. Plato insisted his account came from Egyptian priests who claimed the story was already thousands of years old in their time. Yet no physical evidence has ever been found, no crumbling walls, no sunken artifacts bearing its name. That hasn't stopped explorers from searching. Some theories point to the volcanic island of Santorini, obliterated by an eruption around 1600 BC, whose devastation matches Plato's descriptions. Others argue for locations as far-flung as the Caribbean, Antarctica, or even off the coast of Spain, where satellite images once revealed mysterious geometric shapes beneath the marshes, a discovery that sparked headlines before being debunked. But the most fascinating part, the enduring grip Atlantis has on our imagination. Governments have funded expeditions to find it. Nazi occultists believed it was the homeland of a superior race. Modern conspiracy theorists claim it housed alien technology. Why does this legend persist? Because Atlantis represents more than a lost city, it's a mirror. For some, it's a warning about human arrogance, for others, proof of forgotten glory, and for a lucky few explorers, it's still out there, waiting to be found beneath the waves. The truth we may never know, but that's the magic of history's greatest secret. Sometimes the mystery is even better than the answer. Imagine holding a book written in a language no one understands, filled with drawings of plants that don't exist and celestial charts that defy known astronomy. That's the Voynich Manuscript, a 240-page mystery that's resisted decipherment for over 6 centuries. Discovered in 1912 by rare book dealer Wilfred Voynich, This handwritten codex bursts with bizarre illustrations, naked women bathing in green liquid, unidentifiable herbal sketches, and intricate astrological diagrams no scholar can fully explain. But the real enigma, its text, written in an unknown script with characters that flow like a real language yet match no known alphabet on Earth. This book has taunted cryptographers, linguists, and even wartime codebreakers, all of whom walked away empty-handed. Some theories suggest it's an elaborate medieval hoax crafted to deceive wealthy collectors. Others argue it's a genuine artifact, possibly a pharmacopoeia or alchemical treatise written in a lost language. The most compelling clue, recent carbon dating, places its vellum pages between 1404 and 1438, right in the heart of the Renaissance. But here's where it gets stranger. Advanced statistical analysis reveals patterns eerily similar to real languages' word repetitions, sentence structures, yet no one can crack its grammar. Even artificial intelligence trained on thousands of languages has failed to decode it. One team claimed a breakthrough in 2019, suggesting it was a manual on women's health written in a proto-Romance language, only for other experts to dismantle the theory months later. Why does this manuscript grip us so deeply? Because it's a puzzle that shouldn't exist. In an age where we've decoded ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs and Linear B, this book remains defiant. It's been called the most mysterious document in the world, studied by the brightest minds from Elizabethan magician John Dee to modern NASA scientists, and still, its secrets hide in plain sight. Maybe it's a lost dialect, maybe it's a cipher so clever we haven't found the key, or maybe, just maybe, it's something far older or far weirder than we've dared to imagine. One thing's certain, until someone reads its final page, the Voynich Manuscript will keep whispering its riddles across the centuries. Deep beneath the Mediterranean waves, off the coast of a tiny Greek island called Antikythera, sponge divers made a discovery in 1901 that would shatter everything we thought we knew about ancient technology. Amidst the broken statues and pottery of a 2,000-year-old shipwreck, they pulled up a lump of corroded bronze, a device so complex, so impossibly advanced for its time, that historians initially dismissed it as medieval debris misplaced among the ruins. But when archaeologists painstakingly cleaned and examined it, they realized they were holding what's now called the Antikythera Mechanism, an intricate system of 37 interlocking gears that could predict celestial events with astonishing precision. This wasn't just a tool, it was a mechanical cosmos, a miniature universe of brass and ingenuity that could track the movements of the sun, moon, and planets, predict eclipses decades in advance, and even account for irregular lunar orbits. The craftsmanship is staggering. Tiny teeth on bronze gears, some just 1 millimeter wide, interact with flawless precision. Dial inscriptions reference Olympic cycles and planetary positions, while a sophisticated differential gear, a component previously believed invented in the 1600s, allowed it to model the moon's elliptical path. Contemporary scholars compare its complexity to 18th-century Swiss clocks, yet this device dates to between 150 and 100 BC. Here's what's truly mind-blowing. Nothing remotely as advanced appears again in the historical record for over 1,000 years. Cicero wrote of similar devices crafted by Archimedes, but until Antikythera, we assumed he was exaggerating. Now we're left wondering, was this a one-of-a-kind marvel or the sole surviving relic of a lost technological tradition? What does its existence mean for history? For starters, it rewrites the narrative of ancient innovation. The Greeks weren't just philosophers and sculptors, they were engineers capable of feats we'd struggle to replicate even today without modern tools. Some researchers speculate the mechanism originated in Syracuse, home to Archimedes' legendary workshops, while others suggest Rhodes, where astronomer Hipparchus worked. But the bigger question remains, how much knowledge died with its creators? The Antikythera Mechanism forces us to confront how fragile progress can be. that an entire lineage of scientific understanding could vanish beneath the waves, leaving only whispers in its wake. Perhaps that's its greatest lesson. History isn't a straight line forward, but a labyrinth where brilliance can be lost, forgotten, and rediscovered when we least expect it. In a dusty corner of the Baghdad Museum sits a cluster of strange clay jars, each about the size of a fist, sealed with asphalt and fitted with an iron rod encased in a copper cylinder. Discovered in 1936 near the ruins of a 2,000-year-old Parthian village, these unassuming artifacts might hold one of history's most electrifying secrets. When filled with an acidic liquid like vinegar or wine, tests showed they could generate around 1 volt of electricity. That's right, these could be ancient batteries predating Alessandro Volta's celebrated invention of the battery in 1800 by nearly 2 millennia. So what were they used for? One compelling theory suggests electroplating, coating objects with thin layers of gold or silver using electrical current. Ancient Mesopotamians were master craftsmen, gifting statues and jewelry with dazzling metallic finishes, but without written records, we're left with tantalizing speculation. Could these jars have powered small-scale plating workshops? Experiments in the 1970s proved it was possible, with replicas successfully plating a silver statuette with gold. Yet skeptics counter that no electroplated artifacts from the period have been found, and the jar's asphalt seals would have insulated rather than conducted electricity. Mainstream archaeology remains divided. Some argue the jars were simply storage containers, their metal components coincidental. Others point out that no wires or connectors have been discovered, crucial for any functional battery system. But here's the twist: even if these weren't batteries, their very design raises profound questions. How did ancient artisans stumble upon principles of electrochemistry? Was this accidental genius or a fragment of lost knowledge? The Baghdad batteries force us to wonder, how many other ancient inventions have we misunderstood because they don't fit our timeline of progress? Whether power source or peculiar vessel, their existence sparks a humbling thought. Maybe our ancestors were far more ingenious than we've ever given them credit for. Soaring above the bone-dry plains of southern Peru lies one of archaeology's most jaw-dropping enigmas, the Nazca Lines. Etched into the desert floor over 2,000 years ago, these colossal geoglyphs stretch for miles, depicting everything from swirling geometric patterns to staggeringly precise renderings of animals. A hummingbird with wings outstretched, a spider with legs curled as if in motion, even a grinning monkey with a spiraling tail. Some designs are so vast, like the 900-foot-long pelican, that they can only be fully appreciated from the air, which begs the question, how did a civilization without flight create art meant for the heavens? Theories about their purpose range from the pragmatic to the outlandish. One camp argues they were celestial calendars, their shapes aligning with solstices or constellations to mark agricultural cycles. Others believe they were sacred pathways for rituals, perhaps walked by priests during ceremonies to summon rain in this parched landscape. Then there's the more controversial angle: extraterrestrial involvement. Ancient astronaut theorists point to the line's aerial visibility as proof of alien guidance, suggesting the Nazca people crafted these designs as signals or landing strips for otherworldly visitors. But here's what often gets overlooked: the ingenious simplicity of their construction. Archaeologists have demonstrated how the Nazca could have achieved such precision using nothing more than wooden stakes, rope, and an intimate knowledge of perspective. By removing the reddish surface pebbles to expose the lighter earth beneath, they created high-contrast designs that endure thanks to the region's minimal rainfall and wind patterns. Small-scale models and careful planning would have allowed teams to transfer designs across vast distances without modern tools. Yet the real mystery isn't just how they were made, it's why they chose images invisible from the ground. Were they meant for the gods looking down from above, or is there a deeper symbolic meaning we've yet to decipher? modern technology has only deepened the intrigue. Satellite imaging recently revealed dozens of previously unknown glyphs, including a surreal humanoid figure with massive eyes and what appears to be a headdress. Meanwhile, researchers using drones discovered that some lines funnel toward sources of water, hinting at a practical purpose tied to survival in this harsh environment. But perhaps the most haunting detail, the Nazca culture vanished abruptly around 500 AD, leaving no written records, just these sprawling, cryptic messages in the sand. Whether prayers, maps, or something far more mysterious, the lines endure as a testament to human curiosity, a puzzle etched not just into the earth but into history itself. One of history's most chilling vanishings begins with a name carved into a tree, Croatoan. In 1587, over 100 English settlers landed on Roanoke Island, off the coast of what's now North Carolina, led by Governor John White. They were meant to establish England's first permanent foothold in the New World, but when White returned from a supply trip to England 3 years later, the entire colony had disappeared without a trace. No bodies, no signs of battle, just that single word of Croatoan etched into a post of the abandoned fort and the letters Crow scratched into a nearby tree. To this day, no one knows for certain what happened, but the theories are as haunting as the mystery itself. Some historians believe the colonists integrated with the nearby Croatoan people, a friendly indigenous tribe hinted at by the cryptic carving. Decades later, reports surfaced of fair-skinned, English-speaking Native Americans in the region, and some Croatoan descendants today claim ancestry from the lost settlers. Others suggest a darker fate, that the colony fractured under starvation and infighting, with survivors either absorbed into hostile tribes or slaughtered in conflicts. Then there's the eerie theory of a Spanish attack. England's rivals had spies in the area and might have wiped out the settlement to sabotage British ambitions. But the most spine-tingling twist, recent archaeological digs on Hatteras Island, historically linked to the Croatoans, unearthed Elizabethan-era artifacts, a gold signet ring, sword hilts, and even fragments of slate with English writing. The real shocker, we may never get a definitive answer. Roanoke's disappearance wasn't just a historical blip, it became a cautionary tale about the fragility of early colonialism, a mystery so potent it inspired everything from horror novels to supernatural TV plots. Think about it, over 100 people, entire families, vanishing into the wilderness of a new continent. Were they victims of circumstance, willing participants in a cultural merger, or did something far more sinister lurk in those uncharted woods? The lost colony endures because it's not just about what happened, it's about the terrifying uncertainty of history itself, those gaps in the record where imagination and dread rush in to fill the void. Among the fragile, ancient texts of the Dead Sea Scrolls, one stands apart, not for its spiritual wisdom, but for what it promises: unimaginable wealth. Known as the Copper Scroll, this 2,000-year-old document isn't written on parchment like the others. It's etched onto thin sheets of copper, as if the creators wanted these words to outlast time itself. And what words they are! A detailed inventory of 64 hiding places where staggering amounts of gold, silver, and precious temple artifacts were supposedly buried. We're talking about quantities so vast, over 26 tons of precious metals, that if real, this would be the greatest treasure hunt in history. Yet despite decades of searching, not a single ingot has been found. So is it a map to forgotten riches or history's most elaborate hoax? The scroll's instructions are maddeningly specific yet frustratingly vague. It describes treasures hidden near the ruin that is in the valley of Achor, beneath the white rock of the waterfall, or in the tunnel you enter from the north. Problem is, these landmarks either no longer exist or could refer to a dozen locations across modern-day Israel and Jordan. Even the language is peculiar, written in a unique dialect of Hebrew with some terms found nowhere else in ancient texts. Some scholars argue it's a literal treasure map, perhaps documenting the Jewish temple's wealth hidden before the Roman destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. Others believe it's symbolic, a coded record of sacred knowledge rather than physical gold. But here's what's truly bizarre. Unlike the other Dead Sea Scrolls, which were carefully preserved by the Essene community, the Copper Scroll was found separate from the rest, tucked away in a remote cave as if someone didn't want it discovered. Then there's the practical puzzle. Could 64 stashes of treasure really remain hidden for millennia? Modern expeditions armed with ground-penetrating radar and satellite imaging have come up empty. Treasure hunters have spent fortunes following its clues. One team even dynamited a hillside near Qumran, only to find rubble, yet tantalizing clues persist. In 1988, archaeologists excavating near the Temple Mount uncovered a small silver ingot matching the scroll's descriptions. And in 2012, a researcher proposed that cryptic phrases like the Solomonic Pool might point to an underground water system beneath Jerusalem's Old City, a theory supported by recent sonar scans revealing mysterious chambers. The Copper Scroll's greatest power isn't just the treasure it promises, but the questions it forces us to ask. Was this a desperate act of preservation by priests fleeing Roman legions? A clever distraction to send looters on wild goose chases while real treasures were moved elsewhere? Or something even more intriguing, a religious text disguised as a treasure map, its true value not in gold but in the lost history it encodes? Until someone cracks its code or stumbles upon a cache of glittering proof, this ancient list of riches will keep its secrets and its skeptics. One thing's certain, whether fact or fiction, the Copper Scroll proves that sometimes history's most valuable treasures aren't the ones we can hold in our hands, but the mysteries that keep us digging. The summer of 1518 in Strasbourg was supposed to be ordinary until the dancing began. It started with one woman, Frau Trophia, stepping into the cobblestone square and twisting her body in erratic, jerking movements. Within days, dozens joined her, their limbs flailing as if pulled by invisible strings. By the end of the month, over 400 people were caught in the grip of what historians now call the dancing plague, their feet pounding the earth until their shoes were stained with blood, their bodies collapsing from exhaustion only to rise and dance again. This wasn't celebration, it was torment. Local records describe a city gripped by panic as physicians bled patients, priests performed exorcisms, and town leaders even built a wooden stage, hoping the dancers would wear themselves out to the sound of hired musicians. But what could possibly explain such a nightmare? One theory points to ergot poisoning, a fungal infection that grows on damp rye bread, a staple in medieval diets. When ingested, ergot can cause hallucinations, muscle spasms, and sensations of burning skin, symptoms that might explain the compulsive movements. But here's the catch: ergotism typically induces pain so severe that victims can barely stand, let alone dance for days. Another angle suggests mass psychogenic illness, a form of collective hysteria where stress like the famine and disease plaguing Strasbourg that year manifests as physical symptoms. Imagine the desperation of a population already teetering on the edge. Superstition ran high, and the fear of divine punishment could have sparked a psychological chain reaction. Once a few began dancing, the behavior may have spread like a contagion of the mind. Yet the most haunting detail: this wasn't an isolated event. Similar outbreaks struck Europe at least 10 times between the 14th and 17th centuries, often near religious sites or during periods of extreme hardship. In 1120, a German chronicle describes a crowd of men and women dancing wildly near a church until they dropped. In 1374, dancers flooded the streets of Aachen, their screams mingling with the bells of the cathedral. Were these people trapped in a trance, seeking transcendence through motion? Or were they victims of something darker, a societal cry for help written in the language of uncontrollable movement? Modern neurologists offer another clue. The phenomenon may have been a form of motor epidemic, where stress triggers involuntary physical responses, much like the tics seen in rare psychiatric conditions today. But the dancing plague endures because it defies easy classification. It's a collision of biology, psychology, and history, a reminder that the past holds mysteries medicine still struggles to explain. Whether poisoned grain, mass delirium, or something stranger still, those dancing in the streets of Strasbourg left us a question that echoes across centuries. When the body rebels against the mind, where does the line between illness and possession truly lie? The village of Woolpit in 12th century England was a place of quiet routine until the day harvesters stumbled upon two children near a wolf pit, their skin tinged an eerie shade of green. Not just pale or sallow, but a vivid, unearthly hue like the leaves of the surrounding fields. They wore strange clothing of unfamiliar fabric, spoke no known language, and refused all food except raw beans. The villagers, torn between pity and suspicion, took them in, christening them with the names Agnes and John. But where had they come from? Their answers, once they learned broken English, would ignite debates for centuries. According to later accounts, the children claimed to hail from a place called St. Martin's Land, a twilight realm where the sun never rose and all inhabitants shared their green complexion. They described following a loud noise into a cave, only to emerge disoriented in Woolpit's fields. Was this a fanciful lie spun by frightened youngsters? A garbled account of a real journey, or something far more extraordinary? Theories abound. Some scholars suggest the children were Flemish immigrants, possibly orphans from a nearby persecuted community, their green tint the result of malnutrition or arsenic poisoning from contaminated food. Others propose they were victims of human trafficking, their odd skin a symptom of hypochromic anemia, a condition causing a greenish pallor due to iron deficiency. Then there's the fringe angle, extraterrestrial visitors. Ancient astronaut enthusiasts point to the children's unusual complexion, their claim of a sunless homeland, and their sudden appearance as evidence of otherworldly origins. Could St. Martin's Land have been a mistranslation of a celestial description? The idea gains a flicker of plausibility when you consider medieval chronicles rarely mention green skin outside this case, making it an anomaly even for its time. But perhaps the most compelling detail is John's tragic fate after falling ill and dying young. His sister Agnes survived, lost her green hue, and integrated into society. Her descendants were said to live in the area for generations, their bloodline carrying whispers of the unknown. The green children endure because they defy categorization. Were they time travelers, as some modern theorists speculate, refugees from a parallel dimension, or simply lost souls whose true story was warped by superstition and the passage of time? Unlike clearer historical mysteries, this one dissolves the moment you grasp it, leaving only questions. Their brief, bewildering appearance reminds us that history's most haunting secrets aren't always grand conspiracies or lost treasures. Sometimes they're just two frightened children stepping out of the shadows who make us wonder how wide the world really is. In the quiet hours of August 15, 1977, a radio telescope at Ohio State University's Big Ear Observatory picked up something extraordinary, a burst of radiation so powerful, so unnervingly precise, that the astronomer who discovered it scrawled, "Wow." In red ink on the data printout. That single word would give the signal its name, and its 72-second duration would spark one of the greatest debates in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. What made this transmission so special? It wasn't just its strength, 30 times louder than the cosmic background noise, but its frequency, 1420 MHz within the water hole band, a range scientists consider ideal for interstellar communication because it's where hydrogen and hydroxyl molecules, the building blocks of water, emit natural radio waves. In other words, if aliens were trying to phone Earth, this is exactly how they might do it. Yet the real mystery isn't just what the wow signal was, it's where it vanished to. Despite decades of follow-up scans, including targeted searches by the SETI Institute, the signal has never repeated. Was it a fleeting cosmic fluke, like a natural radio burst from a distant quasar, or something far more intentional, a brief hello from a civilization that didn't stick around for small talk? Skeptics point to possible terrestrial interference, satellites, aircraft, or even a passing comet emitting hydrogen clouds. But here's the catch: comets don't transmit narrowband signals, and no known human technology at the time operated at that exact frequency without leaving telltale traces. The signal also displayed a drift rate, a slight shift in frequency that matches the rotation of the Earth, suggesting an extraterrestrial origin. What makes this event endure isn't just the science, it's the tantalizing glimpse of possibility. Imagine a civilization advanced enough to beam a focused radio pulse across light years, a message in a bottle hurled into the cosmic sea. The WOW signal came from the direction of Sagittarius, near the center of our galaxy, where stars are densely packed. If it was artificial, the sheer energy required would dwarf anything humanity could produce, hinting at a technological prowess beyond our comprehension. And then there's the chilling alternative. What if we weren't the intended recipients? A signal that brief might have been meant for someone else, sweeping past Earth like a lighthouse beam in the night. Modern astronomy hasn't given up. In 2017, researchers proposed the signal could have come from a sun-like star 2,000 light-years away, though subsequent observations found no evidence of planets there. Others speculate it might have been a military transmission, declassified decades later, except no records match its profile. The truth we may never know. But that's the allure of the WOW signal. It's a cosmic whisper, a single note in a symphony we're just beginning to hear. Whether it's proof of other minds in the universe or just the universe playing tricks on us, one thing's certain: for 72 seconds in 1977, the sky spoke. And we're still straining to listen. Somewhere in the quiet desert town of Taos, New Mexico, a sound has haunted residents for decades, a relentless, low-frequency hum, like the distant idle of a diesel engine that never shuts off. First reported in the early 1990s, the Taos hum isn't audible to everyone, but for those who hear it, the noise is inescapable, vibrating through walls, disrupting sleep, and even causing headaches or dizziness. Unlike ordinary sounds, it can't be traced to any visible source. Microphones don't pick it up, authorities have no record of it, yet for 2% of Taos's population, the hum is as real as the ground beneath their feet. So what's behind this auditory phantom, and why does it defy all explanation? Scientists have proposed everything from geological vibrations to physiological quirks. One leading theory suggests the hum could be the result of very low-frequency sound waves generated by shifting tectonic plates deep underground, a phenomenon known as microseisms. Others point to industrial equipment or power lines, though no consistent link has been found. Then there's the psychological angle. Some researchers argue the hum might be a form of tinnitus, an internal ringing of the ears amplified by the brain's tendency to fill silence with noise. But here's what's fascinating. Those who hear it describe nearly identical experiences, down to the pitch and timing, which suggests something more than individual perception. Of course, where science falters, conspiracy theories thrive. Some believe Taos sits atop a secret military installation conducting classified acoustic experiments, possibly linked to the nearby Kirtland Air Force Base. Others speculate it's a byproduct of HAARP, the controversial ionosphere research program often accused of weather manipulation. A fringe contingent even claims the hum is extraterrestrial in origin, a beacon or signal meant to communicate with select individuals. But the most unsettling detail: similar unexplained hums have been reported worldwide, from Bristol, England to Windsor, Canada, as if the Earth itself is whispering secrets only certain ears can decode. What makes the Taos hum so compelling isn't just the mystery of its source, but the way it blurs the line between the physical and the psychological. For those who hear it, the sound is undeniable, yet modern technology can't detect it. Is it a collective delusion, a natural anomaly, or something far stranger? Until someone finds definitive proof, the hum remains a paradox, a reminder that even in our hyper-connected world, some phenomena refuse to be neatly categorized. Maybe that's why it lingers, not just in the air of Taos, but in the imagination of anyone who wonders what else might be hiding just beyond the edges of perception. In a dimly lit chapel in Turin, Italy, a single piece of linen has ignited debates among scientists, theologians, and historians for centuries. Measuring 14 feet long and 3 feet wide, the Shroud of Turin bears the faint but unmistakable image of a crucified man, bloodstains at the wrists and feet, wounds across the back as if from scourging, and a puncture near the ribs matching biblical accounts of Christ's death. To believers, it's the very cloth that wrapped Jesus in the tomb, miraculously imprinted with his likeness. To skeptics, it's an elaborate medieval forgery. But what happens when faith collides with forensic science? The answer lies in the threads themselves. The shroud first appeared in historical records in 1357, when French knight Geoffroy de Charny presented it to a church in Liary. But its origins might stretch back further. Some claim it's the image of Edessa, a sacred cloth documented as early as 544. The image itself is a photographic negative centuries before photography existed. When first photographed in 1898, the negative plate revealed a strikingly detailed positive image, complete with three-dimensional depth unattainable by medieval artists. Forensic analysis shows the bloodstains contain hemoglobin and bilirubin, consistent with trauma, while pollen grains embedded in the fabric match species native to Jerusalem. Even the weave matches first-century Palestinian textiles, yet controversy burns as hot as devotion. Radiocarbon dating in 1988 placed the shroud's origin between 1260 and 1390, squarely in the Middle Ages. Critics argue the tested sample came from a repaired section or was contaminated by centuries of handling. Others point to the lack of similar relics before the 14th century and note medieval artists were capable of stunning realism. The most damning evidence, a 2009 study replicated the shroud's image using simple materials available in the 1300s: pigment, acid, and a rubbing technique. What makes the shroud extraordinary isn't just the question of its authenticity, but why it captivates us. Is it humanity's longing for tangible proof of the divine? Or a testament to how easily awe can be woven from uncertainty? The linen whispers across centuries, challenging us to confront the limits of science, faith, and the stories we cling to when faced with the inexplicable. Whether holy relic or haunting masterpiece, its power lies not in what we prove, but in what we dare to believe. Off the fog-draped coast of Nova Scotia lies a small, unassuming island with a legend that's lured treasure hunters for over 200 years: Oak Island. Beneath its dense foliage, a peculiar depression dubbed the Money Pit has sparked one of history's most obsessive quests. The story begins in 1795, when local teenager Daniel Maginnis stumbled upon a circular pit lined with flagstones and marked by an old ship's pulley hanging from a tree. Digging down, he and his friends hit wooden platforms every 10 feet, each sealed with layers of coconut fiber and charcoal materials utterly foreign to the island. By 30 feet, mysterious markings appeared on the walls, and as they dug deeper, the shaft began flooding with seawater, as if the pit itself was fighting back. Thus began a saga of engineering feats, tragic accidents, and whispered fortunes that still haunts the island today. What makes the Money Pit so baffling isn't just its elaborate construction, but the sheer variety of theories about what or who might lie at its bottom. Some believe it's the vault of Captain Kidd, the infamous pirate who supposedly hid gold plundered from the high seas. Others argue it guards the lost treasures of the Knights Templar, smuggled from Europe after the Order's dissolution. There's even a wild hypothesis linking it to the original manuscripts of William Shakespeare, said to have been buried by secretive Tudor loyalists, but the most chilling detail. The pit seems designed to thwart intruders. Early excavators uncovered a network of flood tunnels, expertly engineered to fill the shaft with seawater the moment anyone breached a certain depth. Later expeditions hit layers of mysterious putty-like substance, and in 1861, a drill brought up fragments of parchment with the letters VI inked on them, proof to some that the pit held documents, not just gold. Modern technology has only deepened the enigma. Sonar scans reveal hidden chambers beneath the island, while core samples contain traces of human activity dating back centuries. In 2014, a team using high-tech drilling equipment struck a void containing traces of silver and gold, reigniting global fascination. Yet for all the hype, no definitive treasure has ever surfaced. The island exacts a heavy toll: 6 lives lost, millions spent, and countless dreams dashed in what's been called the world's most expensive hole. Why does the hunt persist? Because Oak Island isn't just about treasure. It's about the intoxicating possibility that history's greatest secrets might still lie buried, waiting for the right person to outsmart the pit's ancient architects. Until then, the mystery stands as a testament to human stubbornness, a riddle wrapped in layers of mud, seawater, and time. On a frigid February night in 1959, 9 experienced hikers pitched their tent on the snowy slopes of Russia's Ural Mountains, never imagining they'd become the center of one of history's most chilling unsolved mysteries. When rescuers finally reached their campsite weeks later, the scene defied all logic. The tent had been slashed open from the inside, as if the group fled in panic. Footprints led into the sub-zero darkness, but the hikers were scattered across the mountain, some barefoot, others clad only in underwear despite temperatures nearing -22 degrees Fahrenheit. One victim's skull was crushed, another's tongue was missing. 2 had severe internal trauma, broken ribs, fractured skulls, yet no external wounds, and perhaps most baffling of all, tests later revealed their clothing contained traces of radioactive contamination. So what could possibly explain such horrors? The official Soviet inquest blamed an unknown compelling force, hastily closing the case. But in the decades since, theories have ranged from plausible to paranormal. Some experts argue the group was caught in a rare slab avalanche, a sudden, deadly slide of dense snow that could explain the tent's collapse and their desperate escape. But here's the catch: avalanche victims typically suffocate beneath the snow. They don't wander for miles or sustain injuries resembling car crashes. Another angle points to infrasound, low-frequency noises from wind patterns that can induce panic and disorientation. Then there's the military hypothesis. Declassified documents reveal the area was used for secret missile tests, and some speculate the hikers stumbled upon a classified experiment gone wrong, possibly involving explosive shockwaves or even experimental weapons. But the darkest theories lurk in the shadows. Indigenous Mansi tribesmen warned the hikers against climbing Kholat Syakh, literally Mountain of the Dead, claiming it was cursed. Others posit the group encountered a Yeti, pointing to reports of large, unexplained footprints near the site. And for those who favor extraterrestrial explanations, the radiation traces and reports of strange orange spheres in the sky that night fuel speculation of otherworldly interference. Modern forensic studies have only deepened the enigma. In 2021, researchers used computer modeling to suggest a small avalanche could have created enough pressure to cause the internal injuries. But why did some hikers' bodies show signs of extreme heat exposure? Why were their eyes missing, a detail often linked to rapid decomposition, except in freezing temperatures where tissue should have been preserved? The Dyatlov Pass incident endures because it's a puzzle with too many pieces from different boxes. Each clue, the radiation, the injuries, the frantic flight, seems to point in a new direction, leaving us with a chilling truth. Sometimes history's greatest secrets don't just defy explanation. They dare us to keep searching. Rising from the red clay of rural Georgia, a towering slab of granite once stood like a modern-day Stonehenge, whispering cryptic warnings to humanity. Erected in 1980 under the cover of secrecy, the Georgia Guidestones bore 10 commands etched in 8 languages, ranging from practical advice like maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature, to chillingly vague directives such as guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. But who commissioned this eerie monument? Why did someone demolish it in a fiery explosion in 2022? And what hidden clues lie buried in its controversial message? The stones arrived with more mystery than answers. A man using the pseudonym R.C. Christian hired a local masonry firm, claiming to represent a small group of loyal Americans seeking anonymity. He paid in full with cash drawn from a reputable bank, no paper trail, no identities revealed. The design was precise, 4 colossal upright slabs supporting a capstone, aligned with celestial markers to track the sun's movements like an ancient calendar. But instead of star charts, the inscriptions offered a blueprint for societal survival, sparking feverish speculation. Were the Guidestones a benevolent roadmap for humanity's future, or something far darker? Conspiracy theorists latched onto references to population control, interpreting them as hints of elite engineered depopulation schemes. Others saw a secular 10 commandments for a post-apocalyptic world, while UFO enthusiasts noted the monument's resemblance to crop circle geometry. Then came the demolition. In the pre-dawn hours of July 6, 2022, security cameras caught a massive explosion, reducing one pillar to rubble. Authorities later deemed it targeted vandalism, but the act only deepened the intrigue. Days later, the remaining stones were dismantled for safety reasons, leaving behind scattered fragments and a concrete foundation scored with enigmatic markings. Was this an attempt to silence the Guidestones' message, or had their purpose been fulfilled? Modern investigations uncovered curious details. The original contract included a time capsule buried beneath the monument, but its contents and burial date were never disclosed. Some researchers claim the stone's alignment with certain stars mirrors constellations from 12,000 years ago, suggesting a connection to lost civilizations. Meanwhile, declassified FBI files reveal agents interviewed R.C. Christian in 1980, describing him as articulate but evasive about his backers. Whether artifact or warning, the Georgia Guidestones force us to confront uncomfortable questions about power, secrecy, and who gets to shape humanity's destiny. With its creators still unnamed and its fragments now hidden away, the monument's true purpose may remain as enigmatic as the day it appeared, a ghost of granite, speaking in riddles from the past to a future it never saw. On the morning of June 30, 1908, a fiery streak tore across the sky above the remote Siberian wilderness, ending in an explosion so powerful it flattened 80 million trees across 800 square miles. Witnesses described a blinding light, a shockwave that threw people off their feet hundreds of miles away, and a series of booming echoes that circled the globe twice. This was the Tunguska event, history's most violent cosmic impact in recorded memory, yet to this day, no one can say exactly what caused it. The leading theory points to an incoming meteor or comet fragment exploding in midair, a phenomenon known as an airburst. Calculations suggest the blast released energy equivalent to 10 to 15 megatons of TNT, roughly 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. But here's the catch: no impact crater was ever found. Expeditions to the epicenter revealed a radial pattern of scorched, flattened trees, some stripped of branches as if by an unimaginable force, yet the ground beneath showed no signs of a meteorite's telltale fragments. This absence fuels alternative theories, like a chunk of antimatter colliding with Earth's atmosphere, or even a miniature black hole passing through the planet. Then there's the eerie aftermath. For nights following the explosion, skies across Europe and Asia glowed so brightly that people could read newspapers outdoors at midnight, an effect caused by ice crystals or dust ejected into the upper atmosphere, similar to volcanic winter events. Suspiciously, however, the first scientific expedition didn't reach the site until 1927, nearly 2 decades later. By then, local indigenous Evenki hunters had woven the event into their folklore, speaking of the god Ogdi who flew across the sky in a raging inferno. Modern simulations support the airburst hypothesis, suggesting a stony meteor 60 to 190 feet wide disintegrated 3 to 6 miles above the surface. But lingering questions remain. Why did no observatories record the object approaching? Why were there no documented meteorite remnants, not even microscopic ones? Some researchers argue it might have been a fragile comet nucleus, mostly ice and dust, that vaporized completely upon entry. Others propose even wilder ideas, like Tesla's secret energy experiments or an extraterrestrial craft meeting a catastrophic fate. The Tunguska event endures not just because of its scale, but because it's a humbling reminder of our planet's vulnerability. Had it occurred over a major city, millions would have perished. Instead, it left behind a silent, shattered forest and a mystery that challenges our understanding of the cosmos. Whether comet, meteor, or something stranger, this celestial tantrum proves that sometimes the universe keeps its secrets written in flames. On an early December morning in 1948, a well-dressed man was found slumped against a seawall on Somerton Beach near Adelaide, Australia, his legs stretched out, his head resting peacefully as if he'd simply dozed off. But he wasn't sleeping, he was dead, and what made this discovery chilling wasn't just the mystery of his identity, but the bizarre trail of clues he left behind. A suitcase with every label carefully removed, clothing bearing no tags, and most haunting of all, a tiny scrap of paper stuffed in his pocket with the words Tamam Shud printed on it. The phrase, meaning finished or ended in Persian, was torn from the last page of a rare edition of Omar Khayyam's Rubaiyat. When police tracked down the exact book, they found a series of letters scribbled in code on the back cover, a cipher that remains unsolved to this day. Who was the Somerton man? The autopsy only deepened the enigma. Though physically fit, he showed no signs of violence, yet his spleen was massively enlarged, his stomach inflamed, symptoms some experts later linked to undetectable poisons favored by Cold War-era intelligence agencies. His fingerprints matched no records in Australia or abroad. Even his dental work was unusual, with missing molars and distinctive fillings unlike standard practices of the time. Then came the whispers about the code itself. The letters, grouped in sequences like WR-Goababd, bore the hallmarks of a one-time pad cipher, a method used almost exclusively by spies. Was this man a casualty of some shadowy operation? The plot thickened when a local woman came forward, revealing she'd been given a copy of the same Rubaiyat by a mystery man months earlier, a man who'd vanished after a series of cryptic conversations. Even stranger, her own phone number was listed in the book's back pages, unconnected to the code. When shown a plaster cast of the dead man's face, she became visibly distressed but refused to identify him. Years later, her daughter would claim her mother had been a Soviet spy and that the Somerton man might have been her lover or her target. Modern forensic breakthroughs have only added layers to the puzzle. In 2022, researchers used DNA to reconstruct his face, suggesting Slavic or Eastern European ancestry. Another team claimed to crack part of the code, interpreting it as a farewell note referencing hopelessness and youths, but skeptics argue the solution is speculative. Meanwhile, theories range from Cold War assassination to star-crossed romance gone wrong. Some even propose he was a stranded sailor, though the precision of his erased identity suggests something far more deliberate. The Somerton man's greatest secret isn't just who he was, but why someone worked so hard to ensure we'd never know. His case is a locked box without a key, a reminder that some stories are written in vanishing ink. Whether spy, scientist, or something else entirely, his silence speaks volumes echoing across decades, challenging us to listen. Tucked away in Sweden's National Library lies a book so massive it takes two people to lift, a medieval manuscript so infamous they call it the Devil's Bible. Officially known as the Codex Gigas, this behemoth weighs a staggering 165 pounds, its vellum pages stretching over 3 feet tall. But size isn't what gives this tome its ominous reputation. Legend claims it was written in a single night by a doomed monk who made a bargain with Satan himself. And when you see the grotesque full-page illustration of the devil grinning, clawed, and crouching in a void of empty parchment, it's hard not to wonder if the story might be more than just folklore. The myth begins with a Benedictine monk condemned to be walled alive for breaking his vows. Facing execution, he promised to create a book containing all human knowledge in one night to atone for his sins. As midnight approached, desperation turned to dread he couldn't possibly finish. So he prayed not to God but to Lucifer, offering his soul in exchange for completion. By dawn, the book was done, signed in blood with a portrait of the devil himself as a macabre receipt. But here's where history and legend collide. Scientific analysis reveals the Codex Gigas was likely crafted by a single scribe over decades, not hours. The consistent handwriting and ink composition suggest years of meticulous work, yet the eerie uniformity of the text, as if written in an unbroken trance, fuels the supernatural theories. Even stranger, the devil's portrait faces a depiction of the heavenly city, creating a visual duel between good and evil that's unparalleled in medieval art. Was this a warning, a confession, or something darker? The book's contents deepen the mystery. Alongside the complete Latin Bible, it houses bizarre texts, a calendar for tracking saints' days mixed with spells for exorcism, medical cures alongside occult symbols. There's even a list of monks from the Podlages Monastery, where the book originated, but one name is conspicuously scratched out. Could this be our disgraced scribe erased from history? Modern scholars debate the devil's role. Some argue the illustration was meant to terrify believers into piety, a common medieval tactic. Others note the page unusual, where it's far more faded than the rest, as if generations couldn't resist touching it. Then there's the unsettling fact that exactly 8 pages were razored out before the book surfaced in the 1700s. Were they spells, names? Proof of the pact, the Devil's Bible endures because it's more than a book. It's a mirror reflecting our fascination with the forbidden. Whether work of devotion or deal with the damned, its power lies in the questions it leaves echoing across centuries. What would you sacrifice for knowledge, and who or what might be watching when you turn the page? Deep in the shadowy corners of archaeology's most controversial debates sit the crystal skulls, objects so perfectly carved from a single piece of quartz that they seem to defy the limits of ancient technology. Their origins are shrouded in equal parts myth and mystique, with whispers of lost Mesoamerican civilizations, extraterrestrial craftsmanship, and even supernatural powers. But how much of this is fact and how much is Hollywood fantasy? Let's chip away at the layers. The earliest known skull surfaced in the 1860s, allegedly discovered by a mercenary in Belize and later sold to the British Museum. Carved from pure rock crystal, its smooth surfaces and uncanny symmetry sparked immediate fascination. Soon, more skulls appeared, some claimed to be Aztec, others attributed to the Maya, all boasting impossible precision. The most famous, the Mitchell-Hedges skull, was supposedly found by adventurer F.A. Mitchell-Hedges' daughter in 1924 beneath a collapsed temple altar. Its hinged jawbone, moving seamlessly as if engineered, fueled theories of advanced ancient tools or even otherworldly intervention. But here's where the story fractures. Scientific analysis in the 21st century revealed troubling inconsistencies. Microscopic scratches on several skulls showed traces of modern rotary tools, impossible before the industrial era. The British Museum's own tests dated their specimen to the 1800s, not the pre-Columbian era. Even the Mitchell-Hedges skull, long touted as unexplainable, was quietly debunked when documents surfaced linking its creation to a German art dealer in the 1940s. So why do these artifacts still captivate us? Part of their allure ties directly to pop culture. The crystal skulls exploded into mainstream consciousness with Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which wove them into a tale of Soviet spies and interdimensional beings. But long before Harrison Ford grappled with them, the skulls had already been adopted by the New Age movement as vessels of cosmic energy or Atlantean relics. Some proponents still insist they emit strange electromagnetic fields or hold healing properties despite zero empirical evidence. Yet the most compelling twist isn't about their authenticity, it's about why we want them to be real. These skulls represent a seductive idea that ancient cultures possessed knowledge or technology beyond our understanding. Whether carved by Maya artisans as sacred objects or fabricated by 19th-century con artists, their legacy endures because they tap into our deepest curiosities about the past. And that, perhaps, is the real magic, not in the crystal itself, but in the stories we've polished around it. The Atlantic Ocean has seen its share of mysteries, but none quite as haunting as the Mary Celeste. On December 4, 1872, the British brigantine de Gracia spotted her drifting aimlessly near the Azores. Boarding the ship, the crew found an eerie scene: sails partially set, a lifeboat missing, and the ship's log still open on the captain's desk. Food sat untouched in the galley, personal belongings remained neatly stowed. Even more baffling, not a single soul was on board. The Mary Celeste was seaworthy, her cargo of industrial alcohol largely intact, yet her 10 passengers and crew had vanished without a trace. So what could have driven an entire ship's complement to abandon a perfectly sound vessel? The most plausible theory points to the cargo. The Mary Celeste was carrying 1,700 barrels of denatured alcohol, a volatile substance prone to emitting fumes. Some speculate that a buildup of these vapors might have triggered fears of an imminent explosion, prompting the crew to evacuate in panic. A sudden storm or malfunctioning pumps could have reinforced their terror, leading them to launch the lifeboat only to be lost at sea. But if that's the case, why was there no distress signal? And why would experienced sailors flee without taking basic supplies? Then there's the piracy angle. The De Gracia's crew noted the ship's chronometer and sextant were missing tools valuable enough to tempt thieves. Yet nothing else of worth was taken, and the alcohol cargo, though disturbed, remained mostly full. No signs of violence or struggle were found. Another theory suggests a mutiny, but the captain's log showed no hints of discord, and the missing lifeboat implies a coordinated, not violent, departure. Supernatural explanations, of course, thrive in the gaps. Tales of sea monsters, ghostly apparitions, or even Bermuda Triangle-style disappearances have clung to the Mary Celeste for over a century. Arthur Conan Doyle, years before creating Sherlock Holmes, famously embellished the story with a fictional account involving murder and insanity, cementing the ship's legend in popular culture. Modern investigations have only deepened the intrigue. In 2006, researchers proposed that a submarine earthquake might have released methane bubbles, creating the illusion of boiling water and spooking the crew. Others point to rogue waves or waterspouts as possible triggers, but the truth is, we'll likely never know. The Mary Celeste's greatest legacy isn't just the mystery of her abandoned decks. It's the chilling reminder that even in an age of exploration and science, the sea keeps its secrets well. One of history's most chilling puzzles begins with a series of taunting letters sent to San Francisco Bay Area newspapers in the late 1960s, each signed with a crosshair-like symbol and the words Zodiac Killer. Alongside boasts of murders and threats of future attacks, These letters contained encrypted messages the killer claimed would reveal his identity. To this day, 3 of his 4 ciphers remain unbroken, locking away secrets that could unmask one of America's most infamous serial killers. But what makes these codes so impenetrable, and why do they still haunt cryptographers after half a century? The first cipher, known as Z408, was cracked within a week by a schoolteacher and his wife using frequency analysis, a method that compares letter patterns to standard English. Its decrypted text revealed the killer's twisted grandiosity, including lines like, "I like killing people because it is so much fun." Yet the very next cipher, Z340, resisted all attempts for 51 years, becoming a holy grail for amateur and professional codebreakers alike. The breakthrough finally came in 2020 when a team of mathematicians and programmers discovered the cipher used an ingenious double-layered encryption, first substituting letters, then splitting the message into uneven rows that read vertically rather than horizontally. The solved text offered no clear name, only more cryptic boasts proof of the killer's unnerving ability to play games even in defeat. Then there's Z13, the most infamous of all. Just 13 characters long, this micro-puzzle has defied every effort at decryption, partly because it's too short for statistical analysis. Some theorists believe it might contain the killer's initials or hometown. Others argue it could be a red herring, a meaningless string of characters designed to frustrate investigators. The FBI's cryptanalysis unit once called it possibly uncrackable, while independent researchers have proposed everything from advanced transposition ciphers to symbols representing astrological signs. Modern technology has only deepened the intrigue. In 2021, artificial intelligence was trained on thousands of historical ciphers to attack Z13, but even machine learning hit a wall. Meanwhile, forensic linguists have analyzed the killer's writing style for hidden clues, noting his peculiar use of movie references and naval terminology. Some experts speculate his ciphers might contain deliberate errors to throw off decoders, while others suggest he borrowed encryption techniques from military manuals or obscure puzzle books. What makes the Zodiac ciphers endure isn't just their unsolved nature, it's what they represent. Each scrambled letter is a psychological landmine, a glimpse into a mind that wanted not just to kill but to be remembered. Whether the remaining codes hold his name or just more twisted poetry, they've achieved his goal, eternal mystery. And so the challenge stands, not just to cryptographers, but to all of us. How far would you go to solve a puzzle written in blood? Deep in the jungles of Costa Rica, scattered across the Diquis Delta like marbles dropped by some ancient giant, lie nearly 300 stone spheres so perfectly round they defy belief. Ranging from the size of a bowling ball to massive orbs over 8 feet in diameter and weighing up to 16 tons, these mysterious artifacts have baffled archaeologists since their rediscovery in the 1930s, when workers clearing land for banana plantations stumbled upon them. What makes these spheres truly astonishing isn't just their precision, some deviating from perfect roundness by less than 2 centimeters, but the fact they were crafted over 1,000 years ago by a civilization with no written records, no metal tools, and no known method for achieving such geometric perfection. The creation process alone is a marvel of ancient ingenuity. Carved from gabbro, a hard volcanic rock, or limestone, each sphere required countless hours of painstaking shaping. Researchers believe the artisans used smaller stones as primitive grinding tools, slowly chiseling and polishing the surfaces over generations. Some spheres show evidence of controlled heating and cooling, a technique that may have made the stone easier to work with. But here's the real puzzle. Without compasses, levels, or modern measuring devices, how did they achieve such flawless symmetry? One theory suggests they used suspended ropes or wooden frames as guides, while others propose they rolled unfinished spheres in clay or sand to expose high spots for further grinding. Yet even these explanations leave gaps, especially for the largest spheres, which would have required not just skill, but an almost supernatural understanding of balance and physics. Then there's the question of purpose. Local myths describe the spheres as remnants of a lost city or gifts from the gods. Spanish conquistadors reported legends claiming they held gold inside, leading to many being dynamited by treasure hunters, leaving scars on these ancient relics. Archaeologists offer more grounded theories. Some spheres were found aligned in straight lines or geometric patterns, suggesting they might have served as astronomical markers or symbols of celestial bodies. Others were placed near burial sites or ceremonial centers, hinting at a spiritual or social function, perhaps status symbols for powerful chiefs or representations of unity within the mysterious Decode culture that created them. The most intriguing twist: these spheres aren't unique to Costa Rica. Similar artifacts have been found in Mexico, Bosnia, and even as far as New Zealand, though none match the precision of the Decode specimens. Were these the products of independent innovation or evidence of some long-forgotten cultural exchange across oceans? Modern technology has revealed tantalizing clues. Ground-penetrating radar recently detected undiscovered spheres still buried beneath the Earth, while mineral analysis traces some to quarries over 50 miles away, proof of a sophisticated transportation network. Yet for all we've learned, the stone spheres guard their deepest secrets closely. Why were so many deliberately moved from their original locations? What meaning did they hold for the people who shaped them? And why, after centuries of patient crafting, did the tradition abruptly vanish? The answers may lie buried with the civilization that left these silent, stony enigmas behind, a reminder that perfection sometimes outlasts memory itself. Deep in the arid plains of northern Mexico, where the desert stretches endlessly under blistering sun, lies a patch of land so bizarre that locals call it the Zone of Silence. Officially known as the Mapimi Silent Zone, this remote area near the Bolson de Mapimi has earned a reputation as Mexico's answer to the Bermuda Triangle, a place where radios crackle into static, compasses spin wildly, and strange lights dart across the night sky. The legends began in the 1930s when pilots flying overhead reported sudden instrument failure, their radios cutting out as if something in the earth below was swallowing their signals whole. But things took a turn for the surreal in 1970 when a U.S. Athena missile test fired from a military base in Utah veered wildly off course and crashed directly into the heart of this mysterious zone. When recovery teams arrived, they found more than just rocket debris. Locals whispered of metallic fragments that glowed faintly in the dark, and of engineers whose equipment malfunctioned the moment they stepped onto the scorched earth where the missile lay. What could explain such anomalies? Scientists point to the zone's unusually high deposits of magnetite, a magnetic mineral that could theoretically disrupt electronic signals. Others note that the region sits at the same latitude as the Bermuda Triangle and Egypt's pyramids, a detail conspiracy theorists seize upon as proof of some cosmic energy grid. But the most tantalizing theory ties the zone to an ancient cosmic visitor, a massive meteorite that shattered over the desert thousands of years ago, scattering metallic debris rich in rare elements. In the 1970s, researchers from the Mexican government uncovered something startling. The soil in the zone contains abnormally high levels of iron and other metals, supporting the meteorite hypothesis. Yet even this doesn't fully explain the stories. Ranchers who swear they've seen floating orbs of light that move against the wind, or the so-called mystery family, three tall, blonde strangers who allegedly appeared out of nowhere in the 1970s, speaking perfect Spanish but claiming to be from above, before vanishing as suddenly as they came. The truth may lie somewhere between geology and folklore. While magnetic anomalies could certainly interfere with technology, locals insist the strangeness runs deeper. They tell of plants and animals found nowhere else on Earth, like purple cacti or mutated desert tortoises with shells fused into unusual patterns. Some even believe the zone is a hotspot for extraterrestrial activity, pointing to decades of UFO sightings documented by everyone from farmers to military personnel. Skeptics dismiss these claims as the product of isolation and superstition, but one fact remains undeniable: this patch of desert defies easy explanation. Whether it's a cosmic accident, a government secret, or something far older and weirder, the Mapimi Silent Zone stands as a reminder that some places on this planet refuse to play by the rules, and that the line between science and mystery is often thinner than we think. On a quiet August afternoon in 1966, two well-dressed men lay side by side on a grassy hill near Rio de Janeiro, their faces hidden behind strange lead masks, their bodies perfectly still. When investigators arrived, they found no signs of violence, just two empty water bottles, a cryptic note in one man's pocket reading, 4:30 p.m., be ready for the signal, and a small notebook filled with indecipherable calculations. This was the lead masks case, a Brazilian mystery so baffling it's been called South America's real-life version of the Twilight Zone. The victims, identified as electronic technicians Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel José Viana, had taken meticulous steps before their deaths. Witnesses reported seeing them purchase the masks days earlier, specifying they needed lead shielding. They'd told neighbors they were going to collect something valuable before boarding a bus to the remote spot where they'd later be found. Autopsies revealed no toxins or trauma, just minor internal bleeding that couldn't explain their sudden demise. The masks themselves deepened the puzzle, perfectly molded to their faces, with eye holes covered by dark filters, as if designed to block specific wavelengths of light. What kind of experiment or ordeal were these men preparing for? Theories range from the scientific to the supernatural. Some researchers believe they were amateur astronomers trying to observe a rare celestial event, the lead masks protecting their eyes from solar radiation. Others point to their interest in spiritualism, suggesting they might have been attempting interdimensional contact using the masks as psychic shields. Then there's the Cold War angle notes in their apartment hinted at knowledge of advanced physics, fueling speculation they'd stumbled upon classified technology or were involved in espionage. The most chilling detail: the time written on the note matched the moment a nearby weather station recorded an unexplained electromagnetic pulse. Decades later, key evidence has vanished, the original masks lost, the notebook's pages faded beyond legibility. Modern investigators propose a tragic accident. Perhaps the men inhaled toxic fumes from a nearby factory or misjudged the lethality of their homemade experiments. But for those who have stood on that hillside where the wind still seems to whisper unanswered questions, the lead masks case remains a riddle wrapped in metal, a reminder that some secrets don't just stay buried, they dissolve into the air like static on a dead frequency. On a chilly January morning in 1947, a horrified mother pushing her infant in a stroller made a grisly discovery in a vacant Los Angeles lot: the bisected corpse of a young woman, posed with eerie precision, her face slashed into a grotesque smile from ear to ear. This was Elizabeth Short, a would-be starlet who'd vanish into obscurity if not for the monstrous crime that immortalized her as the Black Dahlia. The case exploded into a media circus overnight, with newspapers printing every lurid detail. Her body drained of blood, severed at the waist, scrubbed unnaturally clean. But beneath the sensational headlines lay a darker truth. This wasn't just a murder. It was a meticulously staged spectacle designed to taunt investigators and terrify the public. What made the Black Dahlia case unlike any other wasn't just its brutality, but the chilling competence of the killer. Forensic experts noted the surgical precision of the cuts, suggesting medical training. The body had been washed with such thoroughness that no trace evidence remained, a near impossible feat for 1947. Then came the twisted psychological games. The killer mailed Short's belongings to newspapers, including a cryptic note with cut-out letters reading, "Here is Dahlia's belongings," and even called the victim's mother to boast about the crime. This wasn't a crime of passion, it was a performance, and the killer was orchestrating every act. the investigation quickly spiraled into chaos. Over 60 men confessed, from unstable loners to opportunistic fame seekers. Suspicion fell on a surgeon with mob ties, a nightclub owner with violent tendencies, even a prominent director rumored to have dated short. LAPD files later revealed shocking missteps, evidence lost, witnesses ignored, and a lead detective so obsessed he kept a dossier of theories in his attic. Modern forensic reviews point to darker possibilities. Some experts believe the killer may have been a mortician or embalmer, explaining the bloodless corpse and preservation techniques. Others suggest a connection to the unsolved lipstick murders in Chicago, where another young woman was similarly bisected years earlier. The most haunting question isn't who killed Elizabeth Short, it's why her case still grips us. Perhaps because it reflects Hollywood's own duality, the glittering dream factory that chewed up and spat out countless hopefuls like her. Or maybe it's the unresolved horror of a killer who vanished into the post-war shadows, leaving behind only whispers and a nickname plucked from a film noir. The Black Dahlia endures not as a cautionary tale, but as a mirror held up to our fascination with violence, fame, and the stories we tell about women whose lives are reduced to their most gruesome moments. The truth may lie buried in some long-forgotten file, or carried to a grave by someone who laughed as the world scrambled for answers. Either way, the Dahlia's smile remains frozen in time, not just on a victim's face, but on the lips of history itself. In the summer of 1997, hydrophones deep in the Pacific Ocean picked up something that shouldn't exist, a sound so powerful it reverberated across 3,000 miles of open water. Dubbed the bloop by scientists, this ultra-low-frequency noise lasted just over a minute, with an amplitude that dwarfed even the vocalizations of blue whales. At first, researchers assumed it was just another ice quake, the groaning shift of Antarctic glaciers, but when they analyzed the audio, the truth became far stranger. The bloop's frequency profile bore an uncanny resemblance to biological acoustics, sparking a tantalizing question: could this be the call of something massive and undiscovered? The icequake theory initially seemed solid. Antarctica's frozen shelves are notorious for producing eerie sounds as they fracture, like the sword draw or train quakes recorded by seismologists. But the bloop didn't match the typical patterns. Icequakes tend to be sharp, punctuated events, while the bloop had a distinct, almost melodic structure, rising and falling in a way that mirrored living creatures. Even stranger, its point of origin was mapped to a remote stretch of ocean west of Chile, far from major glacial activity. Marine biologists noted that the frequency, around 57 Hz, fell within the range of ultra-deep dwelling species. The problem: no known animal could produce a sound that loud, not even close. This is where the speculation ignites. Could the bloop have been the vocalization of a colossal deep-sea creature, something far larger than the blue whale? The ocean's abyssal zones remain Earth's least explored frontiers, with an estimated 90% of deep-sea species still undiscovered. Cryptozoologists point to legends like the Kraken or ancient accounts of leviathans, while more sober scientists hypothesize about giant squid or undiscovered whale species with unique anatomy. One compelling study suggested the sound could have come from a pack of creatures vocalizing in unison, a notion that raises even wilder questions about deep-sea ecosystems we've yet to witness. Yet the mystery deepens when you consider the military's role. The hydrophones that detected the bloop were part of the U.S. Navy's SOSUS network, originally designed to track Soviet submarines. Classified recordings reveal similar unexplained sounds dating back decades, labeled with cryptic names like Julia and Slow Down. Could these be related phenomena? Or proof that the bloop wasn't a one-time anomaly, but part of a broader acoustic puzzle? Skeptics argue that unclassified data points to a simpler explanation: icebergs calving in unusual ways, producing sounds that mimic biology. What makes the bloop endure isn't just the lack of answers, it's what the debate reveals about our relationship with the deep ocean. Here we are, a species that's mapped the surfaces of Mars and the Moon, yet we've barely grazed the mysteries in our own planet's waters. Whether natural phenomenon or biological enigma, the bloop serves as a sonic Rorschach test. Some hear proof of monsters, others hear the groan of a warming planet's ice. But perhaps the most haunting possibility is that we're simply listening without the vocabulary to understand what's really being said. One thing's certain, until we dive deeper, the ocean's darkest depths will keep whispering secrets in frequencies we're only beginning to hear. On a foggy November afternoon in 1970, hikers exploring Norway's Isdalen Valley stumbled upon a scene straight out of a Cold War thriller. A woman's charred corpse lying among the rocks, her face and fingerprints deliberately destroyed by acid. Nearby, police found a stash of burned passports, coded notebooks, and a bottle of St. Hallvard liqueur, a drink so obscure it's barely known outside Oslo. This was the Isdal woman, a mystery wrapped in layers of deception, her true identity as elusive as the Scandinavian mist that shrouded her final moments. What made this case unlike any other wasn't just the brutality of her death, ruled a suicide by Norwegian officials, though many dispute this, but the labyrinth of false identities she left behind. Forensic analysis revealed she'd used at least 8 aliases across Europe, each backed by meticulously forged documents. Hotel registries showed she always booked rooms on the ground floor near exits, paid in cash, and erased any trace of her presence before checking out. Her possessions were equally cryptic: wigs of varying colors, sunglasses even in winter, and clothing with all labels removed. Then there were the coded notes pages of seemingly random numbers later deciphered as dates and locations, possibly dead drops or meeting points. The espionage angle seems irresistible. The 1970s were peak Cold War tension, and Norway's proximity to the Soviet Union made it a hotspot for intelligence activity. Witnesses reported seeing the Isdal woman in the company of military personnel near NATO installations. One hotel clerk recalled her receiving mysterious phone calls where she'd respond only with "I understand." Even her travel patterns raised eyebrows. She'd hopscotch between cities known for spy tradecraft: Geneva, Brussels, Paris. Some researchers believe she may have been a courier for Mossad or a Stasi operative gone rogue, while others speculate she was a pawn in a larger game, eliminated when her usefulness ended. Yet the personal details that slipped through the cracks haunt investigators most. A chemist analyzing her remains discovered an unusually high concentration of barbiturates in her system, enough to kill her before the fire was set. Did she willingly take them, or was she forced? And why choose such a dramatic location for her final act? Isdalen translates to Ice Valley, a remote, freezing gorge far from help. Was the setting symbolic or merely practical for someone who didn't want to be found? Modern forensic breakthroughs have chipped away at the mystery. Isotope analysis of her teeth suggests she spent childhood near Nuremberg, possibly in post-war Germany's chaotic refugee networks. DNA extracted in 2017 linked her to regions in France and Germany, but no definitive matches have surfaced. The most promising lead came in 2023, when a Belgian journalist traced one of her aliases to a shadowy art dealer with ties to Eastern Bloc intelligence, only for the trail to go cold again. The Isdal woman's greatest legacy isn't just the question of who she was, but how she reflects the shadow wars fought in plain sight. In an era where identities could be forged and erased with a typewriter and passport photo, she became the ultimate ghost, a woman without a face, a name, or a country. Whether spy, victim, or something in between, her story lingers like the faint smell of gasoline still clinging to those burned notebooks, a reminder that some secrets are designed to stay ashes. Buried beneath the shifting sands of China's Taklamakan Desert lies a secret that rewrites the map of ancient human migration, the Tarim mummies. Discovered in the early 20th century but only properly studied decades later, These remarkably preserved corpses date back as far as 4,000 years, with features that stopped archaeologists in their tracks: fair skin, light hair, and distinctly Caucasian facial structures. Here, in the heart of Asia, was a population that looked like they'd stepped out of Bronze Age Europe. Their very existence shreds conventional narratives about how and when cultures crossed continents, forcing us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about the Silk Road's predecessors. The mummy's preservation is almost eerie. The dry desert air and salty soil acted as natural embalming agents, leaving their tattoos, clothing, and even strands of hair intact. One of the most famous, the Beauty of Lulan, wears a felt hat and woolen cloak woven with intricate patterns resembling those found in ancient Celtic burials. Another, the Chechen man, sports red hair and a long nose, his face frozen in a serene expression. But it's their DNA that's the real bombshell. Genetic testing reveals they weren't just passing travelers but a settled community with ancestral ties to the Black Sea region, thousands of miles to the west. How did they end up here, and why does their story vanish from history? Theories abound. Some scholars propose these were the Tocharians, a mysterious Indo-European people mentioned in fragmented Chinese texts as skilled horsemen and traders. Others suggest they might have been part of a broader migration wave that spread across Eurasia during the Bronze Age, carrying not just goods but languages and technologies. Their grave goods hint at a sophisticated culture: carts with spoked wheels, remnants of cheese and wheat, and even evidence of cannabis use, possibly for ritual purposes. These weren't lost wanderers, they were pioneers who thrived in one of Earth's harshest environments, yet their disappearance is as puzzling as their arrival. By the time the Han Dynasty rose to power around 2,000 years ago, the Tarim Basin's Caucasian presence had faded, absorbed by incoming Mongoloid groups. Did climate change desiccate their lands? Did war or disease scatter them? Or did they simply blend into the tapestry of later Silk Road traders, their legacy surviving only in the ghostly whispers of their mummies? What makes the Tarim mummies so revolutionary isn't just their origin, it's the way they force us to confront the fluidity of ancient identity. History isn't a series of isolated chapters but a tangled web of connections where people moved, mixed, and adapted long before borders were drawn. These preserved faces staring up from the dust challenge the very idea of East and West, reminding us that the past was far more interconnected and far stranger than we ever imagined. The quiet Bavarian farmstead of Hinterkaifeck seemed like any other rural home in March of 1922, until it became the stage for one of Germany's most chilling unsolved crimes. 6 people lived there: the Gruber family, their maid, and their young granddaughter. But days before the murders, the family reported unsettling signs. Footprints appeared in fresh snow, leading from the forest to the house but never away, as if someone had approached and stayed. The house keys went missing. The daughter claimed to hear footsteps in the attic, though searches revealed nothing. Then, on the night of March 31st, an unseen hand took a pickaxe to all 6 inhabitants, including the new maid who'd arrived just hours earlier. A woman so unnerved by the farm's atmosphere she'd almost refused the job. What makes Hinterkaifeck uniquely horrifying isn't just the brutality, it's the killer's lingering presence. Neighbors noticed smoke rising from the farm's chimney for days after the murders, suggesting the perpetrator stayed hidden on the property, perhaps watching as search parties combed the nearby woods. Livestock were fed. The family dog, known to bark at strangers, remained silent. And when the bodies were finally discovered days later, investigators found a grim detail. The killer had covered them with hay, as if delaying their discovery to buy time. But time for what? Theories spiral from the plausible to the paranormal. Some suspect a disgruntled neighbor, citing a dispute over land inheritance. Others point to Joseph Bartle, a former farmhand with a violent streak who'd allegedly made threats. Then there's the disturbing rumor that patriarch Andreas Gruber had been sexually abusing his daughter, fueling speculation the killings were an act of revenge. But the most haunting angle involves the crime scene itself. The murderer used the family's own tools, moved through the house with intimate knowledge of its layout, and left no clear traces of forced entry. This wasn't a frenzied attack. It was methodical, personal, and chillingly familiar. Modern forensic techniques have shed little light. The original case files were destroyed in World War II bombings, and though exhumations in 2007 confirmed the weapon was likely a pickaxe, no DNA breakthroughs emerged. The farm itself was razed to the ground, the land consecrated as if to bury its darkness. Yet what lingers isn't just the question of who wielded the weapon. It's the unshakable sense that the killer wasn't a stranger slipping through the night, but a shadow that had already made itself at home. Perhaps that's why Antikythera endures, not as a whodunit, but as a reminder that sometimes evil doesn't crash through the door. It walks in quietly, hangs its coat by the fire, and waits. Picture this: the year is 1932, and the Australian military is mobilizing its troops not against an invading army, but against a relentless feathered foe. This was the Great Emu War, perhaps history's most absurd and humiliating conflict between man and nature. After World War I, thousands of veterans were given land in Western Australia to farm wheat, but their dreams of prosperity were soon trampled literally by an unexpected enemy. Nearly 20,000 emus, driven inland by drought, descended on the farmlands like a feathery plague, devouring crops, smashing fences, and leaving chaos in their wake. Desperate farmers pleaded for help, and the government responded with an unconventional solution: machine guns. Major G.P.W. Meredith of the Royal Australian Artillery was put in charge of the operation, armed with 2 Lewis guns and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. The plan was simple: herd the emus into kill zones and mow them down, but no one had accounted for the birds' uncanny survival instincts. Emus, it turns out, are shockingly adept at guerrilla warfare. They split into small, scattered groups, darting through the scrub at speeds of up to 30 miles per hour, their gangly legs carrying them effortlessly out of the soldiers' line of fire. Bullets whizzed harmlessly past them as they zigzagged through the outback, seemingly laughing, if emus could laugh, at the sheer incompetence of their human adversaries. After days of fruitless pursuit, the military claimed a modest victory, reporting roughly 1,000 emus killed. But the birds kept coming, their numbers barely dented. Newspapers mocked the campaign, with one headline declaring, "Emus win the war." The government, red-faced, eventually withdrew the troops, leaving the farmers to deal with the feathered menace on their own. Major Meredith himself couldn't help but admire the enemy, noting that the emus had displayed near-military precision in their evasive maneuvers. Why does this bizarre chapter in history still captivate us? Because it's a hilarious reminder that nature doesn't care about human plans, and sometimes the underbird wins. The Great Emu War wasn't just a military blunder, it was a masterclass in humility. And if you ever doubt the resilience of wildlife, just remember, somewhere in Australia there's an emu whose ancestors outsmarted machine guns and lived to strut about it. From the sunken ruins of Atlantis to the eerie silence of the Tau's hum, from the blood-stained ciphers of the Zodiac Killer to the hollowed-out wreck of the Mary Celeste, what binds these 30 mysteries together isn't just their unanswered questions, but the way they pull us deeper into history's shadowy corridors. Each one is a crack in the official record, a place where the past refuses to sit quietly. Think about it: civilizations that vanished without a trace, artifacts that defy their era's technology, voices from the void that still whisper across centuries. These aren't just footnotes, they're reminders that history is a story still being written, with chapters missing, ink smudged, and whole pages ripped out by time. And here's the thing, every one of these enigmas holds a mirror up to us. The Voynich Manuscript isn't just an unreadable book, it's a test of how far we'll go to crack a code that might not even exist. The Dyatlov Pass incident isn't just a frozen nightmare, it's a riddle about how easily nature can shatter our certainty. Even the absurdity of the Great Emu War asks a silent question. What happens when humanity's pride meets the unstoppable force of the wild? These secrets don't just belong to historians or scientists, they belong to anyone who's ever stared at the stars and wondered what else is out there waiting to be uncovered. So here's my challenge to you. Which of these 30 puzzles keeps you up at night? Is it the Nazca Lines, those desert glyphs meant for eyes not human? The Baghdad Batteries, whispering of electricity millennia too soon? Or maybe it's the Isdal woman, a ghost without a name, her story burned to ashes. Drop your pick in the comments. I want to hear which mystery hooks you and why, because that's the magic of history's unsolved riddles. They're not just stories we consume. They're invitations to dig deeper, question louder, and maybe, just maybe, be the one who finally connects the dots. And if you're hungry for more deep dives into the past's buried secrets, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. From lost cities to vanished civilizations, from cryptic codes to chilling cold cases, we're just getting started. The past is a puzzle with pieces scattered across time, and together we're going to keep chasing them down. Until then, keep questioning, keep wondering, and never stop looking for the threads that unravel history's greatest untold stories.